Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Game Over Ottawa. Maude here once again with a solo stream this time, and luckily, luckily, I didn't try to book a guest for this one because I'm sure people would not have wanted to come and talk about this game. I sure don't, because holy crap, what a mess that was from the Sens. We were all sitting around for like a week, waiting for more Sens hockey, waiting for it to return finally, and then it returned, and oh boy, it was just straight to disappointment once again. So 5-3 loss to the Islanders here today. That is 2 losses to the Islanders already this season, considering they have the same number of wins as us at 8. That's not good at all. It's a team that you would hope that we would be able to beat, or at least split a pair of 2 games with. Just the fact that 25% of the Islanders' wins are just from games against the Sens, that is really frustrating. So yeah, a solo stream, as I said here today, obviously. I'll probably be looking at chat a fair bit earlier in the stream too than usual, instead of the chat at the end, just because it's nice to have some chat comments to bounce off of without having a guest or a co-host as well. So just I'm like mustering up the effort right now to actually talk about this game. I feel like I've been really low energy all day, kind of under the weather, and then this game just made me even more like depressed, basically. Just super frustrating. Like, you expect the Islanders games to always be frustrating because you're not going to get a lot of clean looks, not a lot of great scoring chances usually. I'm sure they're still, even though they're not as good of a team this year, I'm sure they're still relatively good at limiting high danger chances. So even though we did get 3 goals here today, it really felt like that. I haven't pulled up the classic natural stat trick yet. I should probably do that now, just because I'm curious as to what those high danger chances end up being. I'm always curious to check those for these Sens games. I know I do it a lot, but it's just because I feel like the Sens take so many shots on goal just from far out that are not really that good, and just easy saves for the goalie. So once again here today, we do outshoot them by 6 shots, but especially in that third period, a lot of those shots was just dumping it in on Varlamov to try to get a face-off to, pull the goalie at the end there, or just throwing it on net at any angle, because in the first 11 minutes of that third period, we only had 1 shot. Like, what the hell kind of comeback effort is that? Seriously, just so frustrating. Obviously, we all know about this team's defensive issues, and I'll get into that later, but the fact that this team cannot make a comeback, like, it's almost a given that we're going to give up a lot of goals, but they couldn't muster up anything against a struggling Islanders team who was missing 2 of their top defensemen. I guess, I don't know how much ice time Sebastian Aho typically gets, so maybe he's third pairing, maybe he's like the 5 or 6D, but Adam Pelech is pretty much, well, I was going to say he's their number 1D. That would probably go to Dobson, but Pelech is like their number 1 shutdown guy, so even without him, they were perfectly fine, and just the number of bodies missing, the fact that Aho got injured as well, 4 guys having to play pretty much the whole game because those injuries happened in the first 2 minutes, and we still got like outchanced and outscored. I don't know about the chances yet. Maybe we weren't technically outchanced. I'll have to double check that, but I was just getting distracted here to see what the final ice time was for the Islanders. Yeah, the Islanders defenseman, it's basically 30 minutes for damn near every defenseman. Dobson 31 minutes, Romanov 30 minutes. I forgot about Alex Romanov after he was traded to the Isles from the Habs. I totally forgot that he existed, but he had 2 assists and +2 today with 30 minutes of ice time. So big stuff from Romanov for the Islanders. 28 minutes 47 seconds for Pulak, and then Mayfield 26 minutes as well. So these guys all had to play so much, and we still couldn't really ever, we couldn't ever swing the momentum of the game. That's the thing. Even if we lost, I'm less frustrated that we lost and more frustrated that with those injured D, we never really had any stretches where we were able to just dominate for a little bit. There was obviously the quick stretch after the Islanders' two really quick goals where we had two goals of our own in about a minute. That was nice, but then they took a timeout and then it calmed down from there. And after that timeout, we only had like a few scoring chances, few and far between. Yeah, Brandon in the chat with the ice time for the Isles defenseman as well there, and yeah, he also saying Pelech is a number one D. He definitely is. I was just kind of thinking in terms of ice time, who technically would get more between Dobson and Pelech. I don't know if they're typically paired together, so maybe it's like pretty even. But Pelech is awesome, man. Like it sucks that that with the Islanders' best defensive defenseman out, they are still good enough defensively to stifle the Sens. And I feel like the Islanders have been worse this year defensively too in terms of goals against. I don't think they've been performing as well. Like Semyon Varlamov, I know, has really good goalie stats. He was good again here tonight, whereas Ilya Sorokin, his stats have taken a little bit of a dip, so it's not exactly there's more goals going in, safe to say. I guess not when Varlamov is in net. They were able to shut it down in front of him. Brandon also saying Noah Dobson had the most time on ice for an Islander since Andrew McDonald in 2013. That's another guy I forgot about. Andrew McDonald. He used to be the guy on the Islanders blue line for a while, wasn't he? And then he ended up on the Flyers. I think it was like a really big contract. They signed him from a rival team, and then it ending up being pretty suspect. Raphael also saying DJ got outcoached by Lane Lambert, who is also on the hot seat. DJ didn't use a timeout at all. I thought it was very interesting because after the 2 goals in 6 seconds, it seemed like a very obvious time for DJ to call a timeout. It almost worked that he didn't, considering we had a good response and got 2 of those goals back really quickly, but it just not even using the timeout at all at the end of the game was a little weird. I thought they were going to use it before that last power play in the third period, or at some point before pulling the goalie. Just, I feel like DJ doesn't use timeouts much at all. It's very weird. And in terms of him getting out-coached by Lambert, it's typical for DJ to be getting out-coached this season. So I'm not super surprised, but similar to what I was saying at the beginning about it sucks to lose to the Islanders twice this season when it's a team that you would think we were at least pretty level with. We both have 8 wins. We couldn't even get one of the 2 games against them. Like you said, it is another coach on the hot seat, and DJ just gets outclassed by a coach who the fans for the Islanders are also not super happy with him. I don't know exactly how bad it's been, or if management would be looking to move on from Lambert so soon already, but I do remember hearing, I think there was a quote from Casey Cizikas that had to do with the fans booing or something, or maybe they were also chanting "fire the coach" like some of our fans were here in Ottawa. But yeah, another loss twice on the season against another team that's struggling. It sucks because these are the teams that we need to beat. Like, especially we've talked a lot about the upcoming schedule going to be very busy for the Sens for the rest of the season. Since we've barely played any games so far. Only our 16th game of the season tonight. You got to beat these teams that are close to you or below you in the standings. Like, they're ahead of us in the standings just because of loser points, which is a whole other thing. I wish the Sens could get some loser points. I'm sure Islanders fans are really frustrated with that poor record in overtime and shootouts, but I wish the Sens had some overtime and shootout losses, to bump us up the standings a little bit, because the Sens, that's another thing, is the Sens cannot ever pull a comeback and actually just get to OT and get the loser point. I know they had a couple of OT and shootout games in Sweden that they won, but it's never really coming from behind. The game against the Wild was the only game this season that we've come from behind and won when trailing going into the third period. It was a 1-6-0 coming into today, so now it's 1-7-0 when trailing into the third period. So it's just really frustrating. I don't know if it's something about the way this team plays that just like makes it harder to make a comeback. Maybe the amount of dump and chase and not having the puck on your stick as much as if we tried to play more of a possession style. Like, maybe that would help with comebacks if we were having the puck on our stick more instead of just constantly dumping it in. and playing into the other team's hands who's just kind of parking the bus on defense. Like, I wonder about that. I wonder if maybe there's something there about the systems, the offensive systems that we deploy, and why we're never having these comebacks late in games. Because obviously there's been some games where we've been down by like 4 goals going to the third, and you can't get too mad about that in terms of not coming back. Although they came close in that Buffalo game when they were down by 4. They made that a 1-goal game, which was crazy. But still can't complete the comeback. And then we're constantly down by 1 in the third, and we never pull anything off, which just super super frustrating to me as a fan. Um, I mentioned it's probably been like 5 minutes now, but I mentioned that I wanted to check the high danger scoring chances. Sorry, and of course, the Islanders did outchance us. Yes, 14-10 for the Islanders in terms of high danger. That is not surprising at all, and strangely, the most of the Sens' high danger chances came in the second period, which is kind of funny because we had that semi collapse in that period, but it was the most chaotic period, most scoring chances going either way. So I guess that kind of makes sense, but of course, 0 high danger chances in the third period. I didn't even need to like actually look at the stat. Like, it confirmed it, but in my mind I was pretty sure that there was no high danger chances in that third period whatsoever. Just ugly dump and chase, getting absolutely nothing going, not getting any shots on net until the last like 9 minutes, and half of them was just shooting it from the boards right at Varlamov for easy saves. Just sort of the situation of we haven't had a shot in a while, let's just throw it on net, hopefully we get lucky. We didn't. I feel like we rely too much on luck and bounces because we've had so many games lately where they're pretty even. Like the Vancouver game, pretty even, but all the bounces went Vancouver's way, and then we say, oh, we were good, but the bounces, oh no. And then Detroit, again, we had good stretches, Detroit had good stretches, kind of even overall. The bounces went our way that time, although there were a couple lucky bounces for Detroit, but it evened out in the end, went our way in the end. And similar in the Minnesota game, bounces pretty even, and we're able to make it. And then we're right back to another game here where it's very even, and then I feel like DJ is just going to blame bounces in the post-game interview again, but the only goal against that I can really blame on bounces is that last one, because obviously it was incredibly lucky, just a complete pinball play, but it's so frustrating. Just we're close. We're constantly close to teams. We're not getting blown out as much. We were getting blown out like heading into the third period or after the first period a few times in the first couple weeks, but lately it's a lot of close games, but this team just doesn't have the killer instinct or the ability to just take over a game and actually have stretches where you dominate. Like, it's so frustrating. And again, the Islanders, I think it was they blocked 30 shots or something tonight. I think I saw Murray Pam tweet that, which is very impressive, but it's like, what are we doing to actually try to counter their defensive system? Not much. It felt like we were just kind of playing into their hands of it. I will say, in terms of the dump and chase, the 2 goals that we got in the second period for Stutzle and Batherson's second goal of the game, they were dump and chase, and they were very good forechecking plays from Joseph and from Giroux. That huge hit to create a turnover. Unlucky that the puck didn't just like bounce off of his skate during that hit or something, so he could get an assist, because it is he didn't get on the score sheet tonight, Giroux, but that was a huge play to change momentum and cause that turnover there. So we got some offense out of the dump and chase strategy today, but it was just after that they're just able to lock it down. So I feel like we have to be able to switch it up at some point during a game. Obviously, you have the main systems that you play consistently and that you want to fall back on, but at a certain point, I feel like when you're obviously generating nothing, like we were in the third period with only 1 shot in 11 minutes, I feel like there needs to be some type of strategy switch up, which we never see. It's like the definition of an insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, or it's like banging your head against a brick wall. I don't know what to what to think in other than we need something different in coaching. And it really sucks because DJ got those wins in Sweden. We won 3 of the last 4, or was it 4 of the last 5 even? It was something like that. So yeah, you know what, I'm forgetting that Calgary game. Was that stretch in there that I didn't mention earlier. That was another game where it was pretty even, but we got the bounces in that one. We're never outplaying teams. Like, all these games are so close, and the bounces go one way or the other. To me, that shows that we're not playing good enough, because the last 6 games or so, the only game that we really were obviously better than the opponent, I think, was the Toronto game, and even then, it was just a bit of a calamity by Toronto in the third period, where, like, they have those moments, you know? It was a very Toronto Maple Leaf moment, and we were good to capitalize off of it, but it wasn't, like, I feel like this team just doesn't play well enough 90% of the time. Even though, like, whether we win or lose, these games are never, it never feels like when we lose, it never feels like, damn, we really should have won that game. It's always just like, oh, of course we didn't win. Like, it's totally reasonable why we didn't win, because we weren't good enough. We're never good enough. And it is just so frustrating at this point. It's not the end of the world, because we're still 8-8, still 500, but as I said earlier, we're going to be playing a lot more difficult teams coming up. That road trip, the Western road trip coming up in December, facing Dallas, facing Vegas, those have the potential to get ugly. There is also Arizona and St. Louis in there, who are a little bit easier, but when you can't even look like the better team against the New York Islanders twice this season, it's happened twice, it is just absolutely depressing right now. Like, I made a bunch of notes about how the first period and the second period went, and I haven't even looked at them since I've started this show. I didn't think I would be able to just go stream of consciousness just ranting like this for so long, but it's just so frustrating. It's like I don't even know if I want to go to my notes at this point to, like, try to micro analyze certain plays and stuff. It's like, does it even matter? Because our systems suck, our defense sucks, our offense has skill, it has talent, but it never has sustained pressure because of the play style that the coach wants them to play. And so if we'll get a few good goals off of individual efforts. You know, Stutzle was awesome tonight. Joseph was probably my MVP for tonight. Obviously Batherson with the 2 goals, but Joseph was flying every shift, 2 assists and great forechecking. Even when on plays where he didn't get points, he was very noticeable just with his zone entries and stuff like that. So a few individual offensive performances that are nice, but otherwise, like, god damn, it is depressing. I think that's like the 5th time I've said that word today, because it's just, I guess I need a thesaurus. I need to come up with some different descriptors. Gonna quickly type depressing into thesaurus.com and broaden my vocabulary a little bit, because I think I'm gonna need to be saying similar words here for a while now. Gonna have a peek at the chat. Brandon again saying the Sens have a good enough team to make the playoffs, but something is not clicking. I feel like it's been that way for the past 3 seasons. Yeah, you're pretty much right. Like, 3 seasons ago, it was tough because our defense on paper, like the players, not necessarily the systems, the players were much worse, and we didn't have great goaltending. I think we still had Matt Murray at that point, Murray and Forsberg, and then the whole team got COVID that season, so that season was just kind of a write-off. We were confident going in, but it wasn't a huge deal that we missed the playoffs that year. Last year, obviously, very up and down, as you said. That team last year did have the talent to make the playoffs, but just didn't have the results, the execution. They definitely had the potential to do it. So it's gonna be a repeat of last year. It just feels like. I just hope that we never fall as far below 500 as we did last season. I hope that we can stay afloat a little while longer. But God. Adam in the chat also saying, seems like the play isn't matching the talent level, and that seems like a coaching thing. I think you're 100% right. That's essentially what I've been getting at here, is lots of great individual performances will shine through and get this team some goals, or occasionally, like, defensive plays from guys like Sanderson. Josh Norris broke up a 2-on-1 defensively tonight. That was an awesome back check. If I actually went through all my detailed notes like I was planning to. I was gonna say Norris, I thought, was pretty good in the first period, first half of the game or so. So some good good defensive plays happen occasionally from the talent on this team, and same with the offense. But the systems in general, like when we are set up in the offensive zone or trying to set up in the offensive zone, it's rarely sustained pressure. And when we're in the defensive zone, it's just constantly taking a long ass time to get the puck out and turning it over constantly. So you're 100% right, Adam, that we have these skilled players, but for whatever reason, all the pieces aren't coming together properly. And it really sucks. And I think it has a lot to do with coaching and strategies for sure. Newbie saying, I get maybe not wanting to cause more chaos given what the organization's been dealing with this season, but come on, something's got to give. It's just such frustration in the fan base, again, so quickly into the season. We've only played 16 games, and the thing is, in 16 games, 8 wins, how many of those 8 wins even do we really feel like we were the way better team? Most of those wins, like a couple of them in the beginning of the season, like against the Flyers, we dominated them. Against Tampa, we dominated them. And the Capitals. But the last few wins, it's just been kind of like, oh yay, we won, but holy crap, that sucks to watch, and it was really frustrating. And then again, the 8 losses, it's very rare for me to say that we should have won. Oh, we played good enough to win. It's always just, when we lose, I'm just like, yeah, we deserved that because we sucked. Oh God. So you're right that it kind of makes sense for the organization to not want to stir things up again because they've been making too many headlines. So players suspended, the GM being fired, and then you add the coach being fired to it as well. It would be a lot, and I get that Staios was talking about wanting to limit the noise from the outside, and it was like just too much outside stuff kind of being a distraction for players, and especially firing the coach that they all like. They all like DJ as a human being. By all accounts, he's a great guy, but at a certain point, the results aren't there, and I'm worried that this team is going to just have another stretch like they did last season with that 7-game losing streak in November. Obviously, November hasn't been as bad this year, but because of the very broken up schedule, I feel like a skid like that is just going to happen in December. It's just going to be booted a little bit farther. Like, we've stayed afloat for now, been lucky enough to be able to be 500 at this point. But like I said, when we get to that Western road trip in December, I feel like things could get pretty sketchy. It's going to be a lot of games in a very short amount of time, and the way that this team is playing, I really don't see how they can keep their heads above water. It just doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Adam also saying, bring in Jay Woodcroft, go on a huge win streak. Everyone outside of Edmonton is happy. I mean, it seems like Jay Woodcroft was not the problem in Edmonton. Like, they had a big win today, but the previous 3 games on their southern, like, Florida and Carolina road trip, those were horrendous. So it feels like Jay Woodcroft was not the problem there. I don't know if the Oilers are really going to turn it around too much. Like, they might be so bad at this point that it's going to be too hard to make the playoffs. So, like, I would totally be open to Woodcroft. He was able to take an Oilers team that had very good offense, subpar defense on paper, and pretty much average goaltending. He had Mike Smith, Jack Campbell, and Stuart Skinner as his goalies for his tenure. So he was able to take that team, and obviously he has the 2 of the best players in the world, but he was able to take that team and get them playing at least good enough defense and keeping out enough goals that they could win games and actually, like, play to their offensive strengths. Even if they were winning games like 5-3, 6-5 constantly, they're winning games. So, like, you could bring Jay Woodcroft in here, and if he can do that with the Sens, get them executing better on offense and actually, like, playing towards the skill of our forwards. And maybe, like, obviously he's probably not going to make us an amazing defensive team or make our goalies look super good with some crazy defensive system. Maybe he can figure out a way to win games, win some high-scoring games. That's what's so frustrating, is this team sucks defensively, and they score, but they don't score enough to actually win some high scoring games. So, and I feel like we have that talent on paper up front where our guys are going to still be putting up like 70, 80 points, our top guys, 70, 80, 60 points. It's not like we're lacking for goals, but it's just not enough in the way that our games play out in terms of we're never dominating. It's always back and forth or just getting dominated ourselves and not getting very many high danger chances and just shooting the puck on net to pad our stats. And it's like, oh, hey, we outshot the other team. But, man, as I'm looking at this box score, I still have it open here. The Sens lost a shot after the game was ended. They removed a shot from the Sens. So down from 32 to 31 shots, they actually took away a shot, which I think is very funny because we had some like absolute muffins just going in on Varlamov to try to make it look like we had something going in the third period, and one of those 32 shots was not even a shot. It has now been taken away. So that the offensive push in the third period, even worse now that we know that they had one less shot than than we thought they did. God damn. I am I am so annoyed with this result here today. Newbie saying we have so many games on hand compared to some others in the Atlantic, and you're worried that they're all going to get squandered. I agree. That's why, like, I open up by saying it really sucks to lose to the Islanders twice because they are a beatable opponent. I think we're pretty, like, even with them in terms of quality of roster and stuff like that. Like, I do think the Islanders are pretty good and they should also be better than their record has been so far this season, but it's a team that is similarly struggling. So the fact that you couldn't even split 2 games with them is pathetic. And these games in hand, we need to be beating the other teams that are struggling. We have Seattle and Columbus coming up, who I'm going to double check the standings pretty quickly, but I think they both have less wins than us. So, okay, Seattle has the same number of wins as us, very similar record to the Islanders with a lot of overtime losses. And then obviously Columbus has less wins than us, but if they beat us, they're going to be fucking catching up to us, especially with 4 overtime losses. And we can never get any loser points, never coming back in games to push to OT. So a couple more really beatable teams coming up. These are, I don't know necessarily if those will count as the games in hand, because we don't have a lot of back-to-backs for a while. We have one coming up, but then there isn't any more for the rest of December. So we might still kind of be floating at less games played than everyone else, but this is the thing. You need to beat these teams that are close to you in the standings. It sucks. And I feel like this was a big problem last year too, where we were losing to bottom feeders, like 2 losses to Chicago last year. A loss to San Jose that I remember doing. Remember having to stay up till like 2 a.m. to do that show. So I'm very scared for the Western road trips coming up. If we lose to the fucking Sharks again this year, like holy crap! Just this team doesn't beat the teams that it should beat. Occasionally we'll get the funny win against the Leafs, but other than that, it's rough. Like, God. Brandon also saying Jay Woodcroft is ours, wants him on the island. He has to get a job soon, I'm sure. Like there's a few teams that are really struggling that look like they're probably going to be in the coaching change discussion here soon. So I'm sure Jay Woodcroft is going to get a job soon. But hey, the Islanders, man, they win today. They beat the Sens twice, so you can hold on to Lane Lambert, I guess. I guess he is going to stay around a little bit longer. Maybe he gains some goodwill with the organization. Maybe Lou is going to keep him. The Islanders, I guess, 8-6-5 now, just double-checking the standings. Those fucking overtime losses. I'm so jealous of those points, just to make it look like we're still competitive. And yeah, their 3rd straight win. Yeah, oh boy. We, like, the Sens, it's so tough because the Sens were on a good run of 4 wins in 5 games, but as I said, we never dominate. So when we win, it's like, yay, that could have gone either way. And then we lose, it's like, oh yeah, we didn't deserve to win. So even though there was a bit of positivity and a bit of a good stretch there, I just feel like I can't I can't be too positive when after a week of no games we come out and we just totally blow it again. Like I I feel like I should touch on some individual performances before I go here. Like Anton Forsberg, I was really rooting for him to have a good game here tonight because he was solid against Minnesota. I didn't want to see him have another ugly like 5 goals against game. Even if we lost, it sucks that this freaking the defense did him no favors here tonight. I think the only one that I would really want to save on was the Anders Lee goal. Defensive breakdown, of course, but that's one that I would have liked him to have. The Barzal goal, it was pathetic defense where our defenders were just kind of flopping around desperately trying to get to Barzal as they were all too over aggressive playing the puck, and then Barzal just had a free shot basically. It was a mess. So like maybe he could have saved that one, but you can't give a guy like Barzal a look like that. He's gonna snipe it. The Wallstrom goal, good deflection. I think that was one that went down like towards his 5-hole. Those ones are always hard to save. I don't really blame him on that one. That was another goal where 2 guys were just wide open in front of the net. Wallstrom able to get that tip, and there was another guy buzzing around the net too that wasn't even covered either. So if it didn't go in, maybe he probably would have gotten the rebound. And then the Paul Mary goal, I don't know why I'm doing this in reverse order. I was just going bottom to top in the box score, but then the Paul Mary goal as well back in the first period, not his fault. Right off the face-off, defense doesn't know what the hell it's doing, and as I said, 2 guys alone in front of the net again. That happened twice here today. So I feel really bad for Forsberg. You would have liked some saves on a couple of those goals. And then the 5th goal, which I didn't even mention, was just bad luck. Crazy bounce. So 808 save percentage, though, it's not good enough. It's not good enough, is it? Like the first 2 goals, sure, horrible defense, and then the last goal, lucky bounce. I'll give you the 3 that were that he didn't have much of a chance on, but I guess the Barzal goal and the Lee goal, we just need saves there. Those are backbreaking goals, especially the Lee goal 6 seconds after. That's when you need your goalie to bail you out on a when things are when we're kind of reeling and it looks like it's an avalanche, everything's going downhill. You need your goalie to keep you in the game there, and that one was just a backbreaker. So not great from Forsberg. Hopefully Korpisalo is back Monday. Trying to remember if there's any other players that I specifically wanted to touch on, because this was just a lot of problems from everyone tonight, and just only a few good performances. Like I already talked about the forwards who were good. Defense, they were just kind of all bad. None of them even chipped in with any points tonight either. So just rough all around. I guess, you know what, the last thing I'll talk about is at the first intermission, they were saying when Shabbat comes back from LTIR, we are going to need to clear a bit of cap room, because originally at the beginning of the season, we were playing a player short because of having no cap room. We are going to need to either just run with a player short or have no scratches again, or we're gonna have to trade someone. So they were saying like there could be trade interest in Batherson, which obviously he was great tonight. If that is something that Steve Staios would be considering, maybe he raised his value here today. Batherson obviously was good here today, but I'm not very attached to him for obvious reasons. So if he were to get traded, that I wouldn't care, but also just from like an asset management perspective, I don't think that's the type of player that you want to trade to clear cap room. You would want to get good assets back for him, because pending the completion of an investigation, he should have good trade value, but obviously we don't know. If the investigation does end up, if the information comes out from that and it does end up being a certain way, he could lose all that trade value. So maybe we should get rid of him before that happens. But also I wonder if the names from 2018 are ever even really going to be released at this point. It just always gets delayed and delayed, so it's sketchy. I will say that maybe if there's a lot of teams interested in Batherson, maybe they think that maybe teams know who the names are in secret, and maybe he's not one of them. So maybe because who's going to trade for him if he's about to getting released in or like punished or suspended or anything like that. So that's one thing. I don't really think Batherson's going to get traded anytime soon, though. It seems like the more realistic option is Kubalik, which makes sense. He hasn't been very good. Like maybe he'll be able to hit 20 goals on the season, but not providing any playmaking ability at all with only 1 assist so far. He did have 25 assists last season, so he has some of that there, but it's just not here. It's just not showing in Ottawa. Maybe it's a systems thing. I've been talking like crazy about the system. Maybe he's not great for a dump and chase system, which is understandable with offensive players. So I don't think anyone would really miss him too much if we traded him. You could probably get a decent draft pick for him, maybe like a 3rd round pick or something. So I think if the two decisions is either to keep Kubalik or and have like no scratches on the roster and be like constantly right up against the cap, and maybe having someone injured, and then having to play a player short, or just trade Kubalik and be able to actually carry scratches on your roster. I think I would just move him on, especially because towards the end of January we'll be able to get Shane Pinto back, and really Greg hopefully coming back from injury within the next few weeks should help quite a bit. So, like, those two guys combined should be able to replace Kubalik's offense. Even his best case scenario offensive output from last season of like 20 goals, 20 assists or so, just Ridley Gregg and Shane Pinto in the lineup for a combined lesser cap hit than Kubalik should be able to match that production. Obviously, it'll be later in the season with less games played, but point paces and stuff, right? They should be able to have a similar impact, and maybe there are a couple of guys who can be better defensively. We know that Ridley Gregg has had awesome advanced metrics so far this season, so I would be perfectly fine with Kubalik being moved and just being able to actually have a bit more roster flexibility and not being totally stuck up against the cap. So we might have a move relatively soon too, because they were saying that Shabbat is looking at I think it's the December 1st game against Columbus to return. So he'll miss one more game because we only have one more game in the next 6 days with this god awful schedule. Like, we're back from Sweden. Can we get the games going already? We've been waiting so long, and it's only 2 games before next week. Like, yeah, like a Friday game, a Monday game, and then a Friday game again. It's not enough. It sucks. Like, we have the super condensed schedule late in the season, but they could have spread it out a little bit better, where we don't have such a long gap before and after Sweden twice. It's like 2 long gaps after Sweden. You only need 1, right? Like, goddamn. So anyway, point being that we're probably going to see a roster move pretty soon. Maybe it's just a temporary thing, like Kastelik or Greg going to the retroactive LTIR to kind of delay needing to make a move, but Kubalik really hasn't made that much of an impression. So, like, he had a good game against Toronto, but that was about it, really. The 2 goals in that game. Other than that, he's just been too quiet. So if anyone's looking for a scoring winger, I would move him for whatever draft pick you can get at this point. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Charlie is going to be doing the next couple shows, so I'll be off for a bit. Maybe we will get that type of roster move before the next time I'm back, and I'll be able to comment on a trade potentially. We don't know though. We don't know. Yeah, as David was saying in the chat, one more note on that. He was saying that the Sens cap space, according to Cap Friendly, is just under $12,900 US. So yeah, it would be best to just move a player out for a little bit of flexibility at this point. It's not, oh god, it's not good. It's not good. Raphael saying we are way too smart for the NHL schedule. It seems like a lot of people are way too smart for the NHL in many ways, for many different decisions that they make as well. I know I saw a comment as well, newbie saying the NHL is too busy banning goalie masks. So they don't have time to focus on anything good, like making a proper schedule for the Sens. So the goalie masks is a whole nother thing too. Like I'm ready to about wrap it up here, but I could rant for a long time about the whole freedom of speech and expression for the players. Like, okay, we're gonna ban everything because we want to protect a few homophobes, so then you also can't have anything else that has nothing to do with LGBT. You can't have any of that on your gear in warm-up or anything. It's just so stupid. Everyone's been obviously talking about it on Twitter all day. Very stupid. I'm glad that Fleury, I believe, is actually wearing the mask that he had made to honor his wife and her native heritage. I believe he's wearing that mask today. At least he wore it in warm-ups. I saw that. I don't know if he's wearing it in the game. So at least the NHL is backing down a little bit in terms of actually fining people for breaking this rule. It seems like it's barely even actually a real rule at this point, though, because you can just call their bluff and then they won't fine you. First they said they were going to fine Fleury. Then he said, screw you. So then they said they're going to fine the team. And then the Wild said, screw you. So now they're just not doing anything and letting him wear the mask. So why do you even have the rule at that point? It's just so stupid. So stupid. Again, I could go on and on about this forever, but I think I gotta wrap it up here soon. Yeah, Game Over Ottawa is going to be back on Monday for Charlie covering the game against the Florida Panthers. Another stupid long break, but then after that we will be back for Friday. I think Charlie's covering that game against Columbus as well. Saturday, I will be back finally. I'll have another week off in between shows. I've done 3 shows in a week, but the last game before Sweden, oh god, the last game before Sweden was November 11th. And I've done the last 3 shows in a row, but by the time I do my 4th show in a row, that's going to be 4 weeks. From November 11th to the 18th to the 25th to the 2nd is 4 full weeks to do 4 full shows. So it's going to be a while till you see me again, another week off, but damn. It's going to be weird going from this to suddenly doing a show like every second night, because wow, it has been kind of easy on me so far this season in terms of the amount of shows I've had to do. Like, me and Charlie are still have it split up pretty evenly in terms of how we've divided it, but I've got these long ass gaps in the schedule, just like the Sens, following the Sens schedule. So it'll be a while till you see me again, but hopefully you enjoyed watching or listening to my insane rants about the Sens here tonight. Subscribe to STBN if you are not subscribed already. I'm just checking our subscriber count because I want to see us get to 100K subscribers. We are getting closer and closer, just under 5,000 more subscribers to go. So help us get to 100K. Leave a like on the stream if you enjoyed, and if you are listening or watching after the fact, share the show if you enjoyed as well. We've got, of course, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music, all the podcast places where you can find us. So, yeah.